Good evening, Chicago, and Happy New Year. This is Jerry Vasilatos, your host for Chicago Corner. I want to welcome you all to our show tonight. A lot of interesting news breaking this week as the new year begins and our first show of 2022. Now, we do have a lot of stories lined up. I was just notified by E. Heller that apparently Mayor Lightfoot is going to be doing a live press conference at 7:30. Now it's 7:32, and I do have the YouTube live stream link up for when she does come on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to welcome my co-host for the show tonight, Mr. Daniel Lupker, and then we are going to go into the scheduled stories. And then when Mayor Lightfoot breaks in, as I'm watching on the monitor here, I think maybe Daniel and I can jump over and watch what she's sharing with the city tonight. Now, I'm not sure what the press conference is going to be about, but before I bring Daniel on, let me quickly check what E. Heller shared with me. Mayor's presser, and now she's going to come on at 7:30. Well, it's past 7:30. Lori Lightfoot, CPS CEO Pedro Martinez, and Health Commissioner Dr. Allison Arwadi are holding a news conference at 7:30 p.m. at City Hall. We're actually going to be talking about the Chicago Teachers Union versus CPS controversy tonight as far as it goes with reopening schools or doing virtual learning at home in light of our big Omicron conflagration. I think that's the word that Daniel used when I was talking with him before the show. But let me introduce and welcome our co-host for the evening, Mr. Daniel Lupker. Hey, Daniel.
Hello.
Thanks for joining tonight.
Oh, good to be here. I'm glad I was the first show of the year. It's another notch on my belt.
Perfect. Was that the word you used? I think conflagration.
Yeah. Conflagration.
Conflagration. Yeah.
Lovely word with fires.
That's kind of what we're seeing in the news as far as the sad Omicron breakouts all across the city. A lot of this is affecting our life again. The standard operating procedures. Let me share a screen really quickly that preceded all this, which, you know, I think Kit and I talked about this last week. This was our New Year's Eve super spreader event, as you can see right there. Everybody was talking about the fact that it was probable, with thousands of people out on the streets, things could get worse. And while Mayor Lightfoot initiated mandates at small businesses and restaurants, which I think we're all right to side on the err on the side of caution. In the meantime, it was okay for Navy Pier to be open and all the businesses there and invite thousands of people into the streets because, you know,
well, that's the trade-off.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, well, you could either not shut down thousands of mom and pop businesses who sort of rely on the income of their business to not be kicked out of their homes and, you know, condos and businesses and whatnot. But you also fireworks. It's like a hard trade to make. I don't know. Lightfoot really probably made the big brain decision that getting people out to take pictures of explosions was the one to let happen.
And we're wondering why it then precipitates this. Chicago teachers may refuse to work in school starting Wednesday amid the COVID-19 surge. Now, before we start with that major story, I do want to bring to everybody's attention, this news broke last week. Sadly, Fraternal Order of Police President John Catanzara tested positive for COVID, claims he's inoculated while slamming vaccines. I'm just going to quickly read maybe from the first paragraph before we move on.
Before you get even into it, when I saw that title, I thought it was one of the funniest titles. He's like covering all of his bases as any cop does when he kills someone. He's like, I hate this. Yes, you guys, yes, we hate this. We hate this. Also, you shouldn't do it. Also, I did do it, so there's not anything to worry, but it's really terrible that anyone does this.
And do you know how many people keep voting this clown in to be the president of the Fraternal Order of Police? That's the scariest thing. He's clear and transparent in who he is. Amid an ongoing legal battle over Mayor Lori Lightfoot's vaccine mandate for city workers, the controversial president of Chicago's largest police union announced this weekend that he tested positive for COVID-19 after being vaccinated. Now, I think that he's been fighting against cops.
That's what it is. That I was trying to figure out. That's his angle. Is vaccine's not effective, bro.
Yep. In a video posted to YouTube Saturday, John told members of the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 7 that he quote unquote came down with the virus last week as cases surged to unseen levels and the union and the city remain locked in arbitration over the vaccine mandate. Catanzaro, who retired from the police department in November and teased a mayoral run, noted his symptoms were mild and already subsiding. But he also used the 5-minute video to take shots at city leaders because of course he would. And the vaccine shots he baselessly claimed are ineffective. He's probably making YouTube videos because they were effective and maybe helping boost his immunity. But go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, I was going to say this might be a good time to just sit down the Chicago Police Union and say, there, we're going to put you out of your misery. Well, I mean, it's like literally all the city has to do is just disperse the entire Chicago Police Department and then just recombine it. You don't have to worry about the unions.
Yeah.
It's like the one union we could do without.
Yeah, there was, I heard another podcast. It may have been a Jimmy Dore podcast where they were talking about whether or not there's one union that we shouldn't have, and that is a police union. As much as we support unions, we know that unions serve a very, very important function. But the way that it seems police unions serve their membership more than the community that they're supposed to be working for, and it becomes a political weapon by those in control. As we talk about police reform and how we should potentially restructure the whole concept of policing and that entity, I'm kind of on the fence about it as much as I support unions.
So here's what I would say on this. Police are the reason that you don't need a police union is that they have a natural affinity of their existence that most other places don't have. So take, for example, fire departments. You don't have fire unions. No one wants to pay firefighters, and it's like, what are you going to do? And if you're very wealthy and there's a fire, you're going to still have access to like the good fire. So it's like it doesn't matter to you. Teachers. Oh well, if you don't give teachers unions and the teachers are any good, you can still put your kids in private schools. Police have a natural incentive by the rich to keep them enforced and to keep them funded. It's the only organization that just its very existence almost counts as a union without even having one. Because if police don't get paid, guess who they're not going to help out when someone breaks into their house? The wealthy. The people that actually decide where the money goes and how all this stuff happens have a natural inclination to want the police on their side. So you don't even need a union. You have that natural ability. But right now, because you have a union on top of, basically it's like having two unions in one. And especially in modern America, it's just not necessary, especially with the way that we operate police departments as much more of a militia style than a Bobby style, which is in Europe.
Yeah, no, those are some good points. He went on to say this vaccine is not a vaccine. It is a COVID treatment. At best, he claimed far too many people who are vaccinated are getting the virus for it to be called vaccine. That needs to stop. All we can do is continue to distance a little better, wash your hands more, and be a little smarter about how you interact with other people. Well, I'll give him that. Dr. Robert Murphy, the executive director of Institute for Global Health at Northwestern University, said getting that additional shot is critical as he lambasted Catanzaro's quote-unquote dangerous comments. He doesn't know what he's talking about. That's completely ridiculous what he just said, Murphy noted. It's by all definitions a vaccine. It's not a treatment. It will prevent infections if you're boosted. But even then, you could have a breakthrough. It will prevent much better severe disease, hospitalization, and death. So
that's not a good statement either. Because
no,
then
it's not.
It's like the thing that since the pandemic has happened, I've learned one thing. First of all, we don't talk about it on the main show anymore because we just got hit with too many shadow bans and strikes for just even mentioning it. So we don't even talk about it. But both sides are really bad.
Yeah,
it's like even the side that we would think naturally is good is just being as political as both sides. Again, it goes back to that story we covered of that woman who the police officer who got shot. No one really cares. Yeah, no one really cares. No one cares. Lightfoot doesn't care if there's if you care about the spreading of a pandemic, you never allow large groups of people to congregate. That's just a standard rule. If it's fungible, if it's fungible and all this other stuff, then you do. But then don't say that you care. And I hate I hate that there's two sides. The one side is I'm high and mighty, and you do what I say, you stupid peasant. And the other side is, no, I'm not going to do what you say.
Yeah, Danny, I agree. I've been kind of withdrawing from a lot of these debates about vaccinations and those who make the kind of statements that Catanzara does for exactly the reasons that you stated, because there is new research and new information coming out, as we saw with the doctor who went on Joe Rogan's program that they pulled from YouTube because it's what the powers that be call contrary opinion, even though this doctor is accredited and has been responsible himself for so many breakthroughs and research that the ruling elite, the powers that be, just do not want any potential counter narrative that derails selling and just relying on the vaccine, which will immunize you and give you some protection, but is not really a full cure. So, my whole attitude is, hey, if you want to take that chance, take it. I'm not. And I would advise people to consult with their own doctors to do what's best for them. But it has been disappointing how the other side has been behaving, and there are contradictions on both sides. So while we certainly do not want to engage in any schadenfreude with Mr. Catanzara, we certainly do wish him our thoughts and prayers. And
But
hope that he
say on
recovers
this,
with this vaccination that he got that probably helped boost his immunity to protect him.
say on this, it goes to show, just like any cop, the most dangerous thing they experience isn't getting shot.
Exactly. Very good point. Well taken. It looks like, well, I'm watching the podium. Mayor Lightfoot's not up there yet. I guess they're getting a late start. They haven't started the press conference yet. So let me move on to our next story, which, I'm going to save what was the lead story in our show header regarding Bobby Rush for later, because since the mayor's press conference is about what's happening with CPS right now and the Chicago Teachers Union, that's going to be more relevant to when we watch her press conference. So let me actually play the video that goes along with this story. I'll bring the screen up here. And this comes from WGN Evening News.
A pandemic fight between the Chicago Teachers Union and the schools appears to be coming to a head. If the union votes for remote learning tonight, Chicago Public School CEO Pedro Martinez says he would cancel classes, but buildings will remain open.
That's for tomorrow.
Why?
Jewel Hillary is in the newsroom right now with the latest. Jewel?
To make a point.
Chicago Teachers Union's House of Delegates is scheduled to meet virtually at 4:30 this afternoon, where they may vote to propose remote learning. And during a press conference earlier today, both Dr. Allison Arwady, Commissioner of the Chicago Department of Public Health, and CPS CEO Pedro Martinez deemed Chicago Public Schools safe. And when it comes to children, Dr. Arwady says COVID is behaving like the flu.
We've got to do risk-benefit analyses here. And at least among children, we have to think of this as similar to flu. You add vaccination on top of that, the risk is even lower.
In spite of fairly positive information released today about children and COVID, the Chicago Teachers Union is still expected to vote on a resolution proposed by the union in favor of remote learning. A representative from the union told WGN the union proposes remote learning to take effect tomorrow, January 5th through January the 18th, unless the COVID surge subsides or...
And isn't that a fair compromise? How hard is it to integrate that? They've done it before. They're set up for it, but Mayor Lightfoot's just digging her heels into the sand. Oops, I kind of lost my here. Let me take us both up here. That's my other screen.
So I'm, again, like this entire pandemic, like anything I say, I feel conflicts with something else I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I think that Lainey made a really good point much earlier on in the pandemic that really has gotten me thinking about the entire subject differently. And that is, there's still thousands of kids that just don't have internet in Chicago, in the country.
Okay.
And so, and so if you close down schools, I guess the buildings are open, but if you close down schools, you're destroying the future of thousands of kids. And I think already, there were over like 100,000 children, or maybe more. I guess no one really knows the number. Not an important thing to count. There's hundreds of thousands of children throughout the country that are just never going to go back to school again, or they're an entire year behind, which has just absolute dire ramifications. So that's one thing I think of when that happens. The other thing that I'm thinking of is that yeah, I mean, obviously, like, everyone's trying to do the thing that they say is right, but everyone is, it's like, you know, a bunch of chickens with their head cut off. It's like there's no organization to any of this. It's like the teachers are like, oh, we don't want to be there, we're going to vote on it, and then the other people are like, oh, well, you should be in there, and then some kids are like, well, I guess I won't have a month of schooling done, and then other kids are saying, well, good, I can feel safe. There's no right answer. Every answer that we make has put us in a dilemma.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. I can't say Lightfoot's wrong, Lightfoot's right. Everyone's wrong.
Yeah. And as this 2-year pandemic has done nothing but literally drive home the fact we need Medicare for all, and we need health for all, public health for all, they're not giving it to us. And Where Pilgrim makes a comment in the live chat, which is the argument for internet being identified and as a public utility. It should be offered as a public utility now for exactly the reasons that you just stated. And as that you talked about with Laney, is that he says that's one of the valid concerns. Not everybody can partake in remote learning equally because they don't have internet. God, wouldn't it be a better world if we realize the importance of internet in our lives? You can't run a business without internet. Why would you expect that a household has got to look at internet as a luxury that they might only be able to afford? And if they don't, and we have an emergency situation like this, which, you know, what's the argument right now? What are we all being told by Sleepy Joe? Just, mask and be careful. It's like, no, pay people to stay home.
Yeah.
And then
I
have
also
the infrastructure to support that.
I also want to jump on E. Heller's comment, which is the other side of what I was saying, is that if you're a single parent, which, again, a lot of the people that are going to be most affected by these kind of things are, you can't go to work when your kid's at home.
Yep.
And then on the other side of it, so you can take that, so you're disrupting people's livelihoods and be able to pay for their space. And then on top of that, one other thing that we brought up is not a lot of households have more than one computer. So if you're a parent that's working from home, you can't just go, okay, Sonny, you can have the computer for 8 hours while I don't produce any work.
Yeah. All good points. Absolutely. Let me, I was able to get that screen back up. Let me have us quickly finish out the rest of that WGN report before I read from a Block Club Chicago article regarding the situation.
Testing and safety measures in schools are improved. If the union's House of Delegates approves the remote learning resolution, then all CTU members can vote on the matter. CPS CEO Martinez says he's asked the union to delay their vote.
If they do take a vote to do a walkout tomorrow, I have to cancel classes. I have to be responsible. I am not closing the schools. The schools are going to be open. And so again, all staff will be welcome to come to school because we are going to have a plan for our families. I am not going to let our parents down.
Now, CPS has offered a proposal to the CTU. The proposition includes increased contact tracing capability and 200,000 KN95 masks to be immediately distributed to staff. Now, if the House of Delegates approves the remote learning resolution, all CTU members will have until about 9 o'clock tonight to vote electronically. Reporting live in the newsroom, I'm Jewel Hillary. Back to you.
So I guess that's going to be the substance of what the press conference is later tonight. Now, Whatever Man makes another great salient point. Here's what's happening. Push children in precarious situations, deny health care, steal COVID funds, and give them to the cops. Speaking of stealing COVID funds, this came to us. This is an article from February 18th of 2021, but people were citing it on Twitter this evening because while the mayor wants to open up city schools for everybody else, apparently her children are at a unionized charter school where they are debating the validity of remote learning and kids staying at home. So, what's good for other kids is not necessarily going to be good for Mayor Lightfoot's kids. And this is another example of how she waffles and always plays both sides of the fence. Let me pull up the actual Twitter quote. The school where Mayor Lightfoot is a parent is delaying reopening today to ensure it has an accurate count of positive COVID-19 cases and to avoid school spread and reopen safely. This is the same thing CPS families and educators have been requesting for weeks. Now, going back to the article from earlier this year that talks about Mayor Lightfoot's mismanagement of the COVID funds that, pretty much got divvied to the police union. I think it was 60 to 70%. Activists slam Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot directing millions in COVID-19 relief money to police. Now, maybe if she hadn't given all that money to the police for overtime, there'd be more money for the testing, the masks, and all the other things that everybody's worried about right now. Some Chicago aldermen and activists are blaming Mayor Lori Lightfoot for using federal coronavirus relief dollars to cover overtime hours for police officers instead of spending that money on needed housing relief, business support, and vaccine outreach for residents impacted by the pandemic. So I just thought that was a very, very interesting bridge between what Everman shared with us in the chat: push children into precarious situations, deny healthcare, steal COVID funds, and then give them to the cops who've got all the funding that they need for their overtime to pick the kids up because we've got the predicament with schools.
And then in future, you're also paying overtime a decade in the future for cops because wow, there's all these kids running around gangbanging and stuff. I can't figure out how that happened. They're probably just bad kids. Can't figure out how 10 years ago this might have been avoidable.
Yeah. Okay, so it looks like press conference podium still empty. Let me squeeze in some of the Block Club Chicago article, and I'll keep an eye on the press conference. And if it starts, we can shift over there and hear what the mayor says.
Right before you do, this
Sure.
whole situation reminds me of Trump's empty podium in the previous primaries.
Very much. They spend a lot of time on those empty podiums. Okay, so from Block Club Chicago. And this comes to us from Block Club Chicago staff Colin Boyle and Mac Liederman. Chicago teachers may refuse to work in school starting Wednesday. That's what WGN just reported on. The return to school Monday from winter break.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, she's live. Let me bring her up and we can watch and
our mayor will be
comment.
speaking, as well as Dr. Awadi. And we just want to continue to reinforce, some very important messages that we want parents to hear and our staff to hear. Again, as I said earlier, our schools are safe. There is no evidence that our schools have ever been unsafe this school year.
Except for the shootings.
Cases, and I've looked at this very carefully, especially as we ended the break. Cases were always at a fraction of the community. We rarely saw any significant, any instances of any major transmission. And I keep seeing statements about, all of a sudden now we're coming up with all these things today. Again, we respond to the data. We respond to where this pandemic is going. We responded to Delta, and now we're having to respond to Omicron. I'm very grateful to all of our staff. These last 2 days have been, I know it was difficult for them during the break, and many of them feeling pressure to stay at home, to not show up to work.
We need a little levity in the live chat.
Very appreciative of, well over 80% of our staff that came in, greeted our children, all of the students that came in, even with pressure that families were feeling to keep their children home with this just continued misinformation about schools not being safe. There is just no evidence of that. Now, what is real is cases are rising. Cases are rising, and we have said that the best solution is to do it at the school level. Our principals are empowered. Our teachers are empowered. They have safety committees. We have invested money in the filtration systems. You can literally go to our website and go look at classroom by classroom. We have indicators to tell us if we're seeing issues with filtration.
I'm going to pause him for one moment for a comment from E. Heller. Via Jeff Shirky on Twitter, under the agreement CPS Lightfoot signed off on last February, schools would be remote right now because of the city's current positivity rate. So we're seeing a step back from something that they did actually already agree on. Back to the press conference.
Any given classroom, all of our children are wearing masks. We social distance where possible. There's regular washing of hands. When we address issues at the school level, have we had challenges? Absolutely. But at a district level, we have not seen any significant challenges. And I can't help, again, just be very frustrated and concerned that we continue to look at a district-wide, literally a district-wide walkout where again, it's depriving our families of the choice. We had families that were nervous. They didn't come in yesterday. That's okay, because we can work with them. We can work at a school level to address any issues that might exist. So again, I want to just be clear for parents. If the CTU is successful in voting for a walkout tomorrow, because that is what they're voting for tonight, then we will have to cancel classes tomorrow. There's no way for me to be able to accept children and be responsible to our families, not just with all that uncertainty about who would even come to work tomorrow. Now, with that, to be clear, the buildings will be open. The schools will be open. We will still continue to provide essential services, and we'll have a plan, whether it's for nutrition. We still have COVID testing that's scheduled in the schools. Again, basics, my clinics will still be open because we want families to, again, to continue to take advantage of vaccinations. So all basic services will be open. Any staff that comes into the school will be welcome to be in the school, whether it's our teachers, whether it's our custodial staff. The expectation is that staff should come into the schools, because we still have to, even if they vote to walk out, we need to have a plan for our families. We owe that to them, and I want to make sure we have a plan for them in a very timely manner. As I said, my goal is to have a plan going forward that we can communicate to parents tomorrow. With that, I'm going to ask the mayor to come up.
This city is eating out of its mouth and its ass at the exact same time.
I've never heard that expression before, but
good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being
fits.
here. We believe it was important to speak to parents and students.
How exciting, our first breaking news live stream.
Was going to happen tomorrow, and I appreciate.
I wish it were
all
for
of
something
our
happy.
CEO Martinez and the entire CPS team who are doing important work under very difficult circumstances. I have to tell you, it feels like Groundhog Day, that we are here again.
Certainly
at
does.
this hour, almost 8 p.m., after everything that we've gone through over the last 2 years with the CTU leadership. Unfortunately, tonight, CTU leadership is compelling its membership to make a decision that will harm hundreds of thousands of Chicago families who rely upon CPS for their daily needs, for their education, for their nutrition, for their safety. That's real harm, and we can't overlook that. CPS has worked in good faith for over 6 months to negotiate a reasonable.
She's really pissed at CTU. That's all I'm getting.
Yeah, her ego. She's thin-skinned Lightfoot is up there again, and her authority is being questioned.
We have made significant progress.
I'm so upset that our students.
The union's concerns.
And as E. Heller mentioned before, they apparently had this worked out last year.
The bargaining table. As you just heard from CEO Martinez, and he has done a yeoman's job in reaching out to the CTU.
These stupid teachers are so arrogant with their "don't let me be sick" around a lot of kids. Those morons. Can't believe a mayor of the same city as them.
What do they know? They're only the teachers. We're relying on the welfare of our kids on.
To hear from the members directly what their concerns are. The answer to that from Jesse Sharkey was no. No, I will not allow you to speak directly to my members. CEO Martinez today authorized his bargaining team to present a set of operational metrics, additional ones, to determine when.
A reminder to everybody who might just be joining us, this is a live press conference right now that we're watching, and Daniel and I are going to be commenting on. So we're going to let it run. I can't stop and start it because we don't miss important points.
Well,
if there are
important to relative. Exactly.
If there are any.
The deciding factor is what is the level of vaccination on a school.
Union won't listen to me. Let's do a press conference.
Yeah.
CEO Martinez.
Politics need to be served.
Earlier today, we have the tool because of the vaccine to be very strategic, to be surgical in analyzing where we need to shift a classroom or maybe even a whole school.
Which is why I'm mandating people check their IDs at every business, because we're so safe.
Exactly. Right? Two sides of her mouth.
Also why I let everyone party on New Year's. All part of my plan.
Take a moment, review the plan, come back to us with a response at the bargaining table, delay the vote, do not do an illegal work stoppage. And to that, the answer was no. Sorry, we're moving ahead. So we will respond and deal with that, but I think those facts are important for parents to know. And it shouldn't be that at 8 p.m., the night before.
Oh, it shouldn't, even though this was resolved last February as to what the protocols should be?
They're going to have to scramble.
It hurts her argument.
Children tomorrow. We've seen this happen before. It happened in the strike. It happened last year when we had to fight to reopen our schools. We shouldn't be in this place again. We should be at the table. We should be bargaining in good faith. We should get to a resolution. But what we should not
and that
do
resolution is my way or the highway.
allowing CTU leadership.
So the right thing to do is only what I say, the exact way I say it.
For what? We don't know how long the CTU leadership will try to stretch this work stoppage. What we were originally told it was going to be a single day of action. Now
Very
we
good
know
question,
today
Golden
that it's gonna be
Silence.
through
I've
January.
limited my drinking since I'm trying to eat and drink more more healthy. But yeah, I could use one right now.
And children, and be their voice at the table. And that's precisely what we have done, and that's precisely what we will continue to do.
Don't look up, everybody.
Couple
Don't
of
look
things
up.
that I think we need to remind ourselves of. In 2022, vaccines are widely available for anyone who is 5
She
years
is on
old
that authority
or
trip all the time.
The answer to all
I would
these
also
questions
say, Daniel, if
is
she
certainly
didn't
fear
always come
is the
across as
vaccine,
just
the vaccine,
being so damn
the vaccine.
authoritarian and having
What I wish
what she
CTU
wants
leadership
questioned
would do
and
is
came to the
join
table
us
at
in messaging
least appearing
encouraging
to be willing to
parents
compromise or
and
entertain
students
other
to
people's
get the
concerns.
vaccine. That
I
is
think
the
I'd be a little bit
safest
lighter
way
on her, but
to
she's
get
just
everyone
leadership
to
is not digging your
afford
heels
the
into the
vaccine.
sand and just
School
demanding that
community
everyone else is
is a
wrong and you're
safe
right.
place.
And if they decide
The
to
schools are
question
safe.
your
The DRI
authority,
has said that and will continue to say it. We
you're
know
going to come back
because
out
of the
shooting.
hundreds of millions of
Yeah,
dollars
for someone with a last name like her, she sure as hell is heavy-handed.
to HEPA filters,
Lori
to
Lightweight.
partitions, to masks, to hand sanitizers, to protocols. The fact that we have
I don't hear a single encouraging word to Chicago
No.
parents or kids.
No, all she's doing is she's up here lecturing everybody. Now they had that press conference earlier today when E. Heller came on. It came to shared in the Slack that there was a press conference. I said, well, I tried to tune into the earlier press conference, but wasn't able to follow it because of streaming issues. And he said, no, she's coming on again tonight. I said, well, great. We can comment and make it part of the show because we're covering all this. But I'm not hearing any solutions here. I'm hearing we shouldn't be at the table at the last minute. It sounds like because we're still at the table at the last minute and I haven't gotten my way, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to lecture and blame everybody.
And like MSNBC local and like WGN are gonna be like, she did a fantastic job telling those teachers they were trash. I couldn't have done it better myself.
Yeah. 2020 and 2021.
This is what happens when you let your uncle get drunk and start talking nonsense on your family gathering. It just doesn't stop.
We saw triple the
It's like somewhere else, some politician in a red state's doing the exact opposite of this argument in the same way.
Yeah.
Black and brown and poor kids across our district. Triple failure rates. More than 100,000 students were disconnected and disengaged. And I have to credit
because internet is not a public utility and we don't give parents the tools at home for when we have emergencies like this.
The problem with the pandemic is that we don't do anything to prepare for anything in general. If we had Medicare for all, you made the utilities like broadband accessible the same way electricity is. You do all those things. This isn't really that big of an issue.
It's the reactive society that we live in, not the preventative that we've talked about many times, like especially as it relates to healthcare, but can be applied in every situation when a crisis arises. Better planning, funds put more into, well, look, I guess in her mind, the better planning is giving the police more money for overtime for all the riots that are going to happen because they're not investing in the infrastructure to improve people's lives ahead of time. Help kids, provide opportunities, reopen mental health clinics, give parents the tools that they need at home in case the schools have to close.
And for many of them, they're still struggling to bounce back academically. I cannot stand her in good conscience.
She hasn't. Yeah, this is just like a.
As someone who has a responsibility, a solemn.
I'm Mayor
obligation
Lightfoot.
to make sure that we do everything.
Oh, by the way, what do you think the chances are that the teacher's watching this like, oh yeah, we'll work with you?
Yeah, right. This is a real good way to win hearts and minds.
To shut down an entire system. If I thought it did, if I heard that from our public health experts,
Yeah, Art
I'd be the
Art
first
makes a
one
great
to
point. Did
tell
you see our
what we must do.
broadcast
We
last
have a
week where
plan
Art
and
Medina was
execute that plan
joined
with
Kit and I?
But what
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine, and he used to work at City Hall, and he's got a lot of good points all the time. I'm hoping I'll be able to bring him on again, join us in a guest host, because he's got some good insights and positions to share, opinions to share.
Surgically do this at a school level where needed. That is.
I don't know why, but this entire thing reminds me of this. I'm going to send it to you in
Our
Slack.
children need
Okay.
the services, the protection, and the safe and nurturing environment that we provide for them every single day in person learning. There is no substitute for that. And particularly for those kids who are challenged, our Black and brown students, our low income.
Yeah, let's
and
trade
poor
out. Let's
students,
trot out the
our
identity
homeless
politics
students.
now.
We're going to turn our back on them.
The Black and brown kids whose communities are completely underserved to begin with.
How dare these teachers be so racist?
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why they're not working with me. I'm so good. I'm so easy to work with.
The Centers for Disease Control and others, and keep our schools open for in-person learning with a robust and continued.
Robust. She's using Obama language. It's robust.
Folks.
The spread of COVID-19. Most of all, we must work together to encourage families to vaccinate every single eligible CPS student in our system.
So I'm looking at the link you shared me on the Slack. I'm getting a lot of Google images. Is that what it was?
Yeah, there's a bunch of these. It just this entire thing has reminded me of cow economics.
We should do
Cow
everything in our
economics.
power to unite together to fight that fight. We should not be politicizing the pandemic.
Right
But
now,
who is?
Yeah, right now she's milking one cow as if it's 4.
And families. Let me also say this.
Say this.
We know that individual rank and file teachers love their students.
I thought they were racist.
That's the primary motivating factor for most teachers to go into the job in the first place. They want to be with kids. They want to support and nurture them. We never lose sight of that fact, and we never will. But that's not really what this is about. It is not. And as I said before, we're not going to allow this crisis in public health to be politicized.
But you are.
We won't do that.
It's exactly what's happening right now. It's a power struggle.
Level, we're not going to let that happen here locally. We are committed to remaining at the table with CTU leadership and negotiating a fair agreement, but one that takes into consideration the voices of the tens of thousands of parents that we've heard from that said, I want my child in school.
Because, school is also a babysitting service, although I can sympathize with the parents who need to go back to work to pay their bills. So much of this argument is also about the fact that parents don't have any alternatives when they have to work and their kids are home.
We have an obligation.
Especially if their job is shuttered due to her other policies.
And I would urge the media, be fair in your coverage. Talk to the parents who are saying, I want my.
They are talking to the parents. I have seen so much coverage about parents who are freaked out about the fact that their kids are going back into this environment along with the teachers.
In our engagement with parents.
See, if I was mayor, I would. I'm not going to try and. She's trying to please everyone in the wrong way. I would try and please everyone in the right way. I'd say, look, some people want to be in school, some people don't. You choose which one works best with you. We'll make sure there's enough of each to handle each.
Right.
The luxury of staying home and being with their kids, not because they don't love their kids, not because they don't want the best for their kids, but they need to provide a living for their families, and that means.
There we go.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it.
Because they are the vast majority of parents in the CPS school system. We can't forget the social emotional trauma that so many of our students face when they were isolated and alone.
This is just
from their
This isn't any solutions. This is just a
That has
big
real profound consequence
speech.
for our students, our kids. We can't forget that.
Yeah, Mary. Yeah, this seems to be the
decision
intent
is
here.
about a whole set of factors, but it can't be about the politics. I reject that fundamentally. CTU, let's get back to the bargaining table. Let's do the responsible thing.
CTU, you guys are racist and you don't deal good and you're really terrible people. That may be like your kids, some of you. Why don't we come back to the table and work together?
Yeah,
Let's
please.
not go
I'm
through
welcoming. I'm willing to compromise and talk with you.
like it's Groundhog Day.
After, as Mary
I
says,
don't wanna
she's
read
making
a
teachers and staff look
story
bad.
that's written by anybody who's talking about anything.
Once you publicly kneel down and lick my boot, then we'll talk.
Right?
Now, with that,
I am
we will
altering the
not
deal.
stand-
Darth
We will
Lightfoot.
not stand idly by and accept a unilateral decision at a work stoppage. We'll have more to say.
So, Art, I didn't see the evening news,
The
but
outcome of the vote
what
is,
did you
and then
see
we'll see what happens in
that several
November.
parents
But I'm
were
urging
sharing? If you can share that in the
teachers,
live chat, I
come
can
to
pass that
school,
along.
Teach your kids. Your students need you. Dr. Logan.
Do it my way, or I'm going to go on TV and blame everybody that they're not
Thank you, Mayor.
following my lead.
So we've been at this for almost 2 years at this point. You're
Yeah,
tired
you
of
think
it.
after this much time they'd have
I'm
had
tired of
figured it out.
We've had to make a lot of difficult decisions along the way. As we've learned more about COVID-19, some of those decisions have gotten easier. One that is the most clear is around schools. Do you know what the maxim is that public health leaders share when we talk to each other? Schools, first to open, last to close.
Sad and
That's what we talk
satirical
about when we talk about
comment
our
here,
plans,
but
our
Golden
worst
Silence
case
has a.
scenarios when we are thinking about
We cut the
COVID.
middleman out, the schools, and
And
just
make no
redirect
mistake,
the black
we
and
are
brown women to
in
give
a
birth in jail
COVID
and stay there in
surge
perpetuity.
right now.
Oh, they do that already.
Yeah.
They also treat C-sections with salt with sugar.
As
Yeah.
I've said
Happen.
over and over again, that surge is being driven by people who are not vaccinated.
Well, here we go,
But
blaming the
when I think
non-vaccinated.
about a city that is open,
That's what
right
Joe
now,
was doing in his speech also.
in what
Wasn't he
world
commenting this is all just a
would we take
pandemic
to
of the
close
unvaccinated?
something
It's not a
essential,
pandemic of
like
leadership that
in-person
hasn't
education?
figured shit out
When we
properly.
have
When we
seen the negative
we have a pretty good
effects
feeling
that
the way to maybe
our
stem this off is to like keep people home,
no
not encourage
health
big
leaders
gatherings, maybe pay
in
people
the
to stay
world
home
at
so they're
this
not
point
forced to go out and
think
work and
that
then
that
get
makes
sicker.
sense.
But we don't have any money for that.
We won't
I
make
love
it to the point where we make those larger societies.
everyone. We need to believe in capitalism, but also ignore it when it doesn't benefit us.
Schools would be
Yep.
the last place to close in that setting. Europe is in an Omicron surge right now. You know what? Their schools are open. Across the country, there are many places with higher positivities, including New York City. Their schools are open. We saw, even before vaccine was available, that when students and staff were in school,
Mary, I'm
their
sorry to
risk
hear
of
that.
COVID was actually
sorry to hear that.
lower than when they were out of
Well,
school.
don't say that. We can't even acknowledge it on YouTube. It's according to YouTube. If you're vaccinated, you can't get COVID.
Replicated
Yeah.
multiple times. Where does COVID take advantage of us? When we let our guard down. In school settings, where not just CPS, but all of our Chicago schools have worked really hard to put those layers and mitigation in place. I knew a year ago that it was going to be a hard sell. I'd seen the data. I'd seen right here in Chicago last fall when CPS.
Yeah, Mary, we're going to get to this in a moment also. The hospital rooms.
Many of our private
Now, Mary
schools,
says they're
including
100%
Archdiocese,
full.
were in person.
The last story that I had that I'm going to be reporting from in a little while says less, but of course that could have changed.
Lower rates of COVID-19 in both staff and students that were in school as opposed to those that were out of school. So yes, it's a surge. Yes, it's appropriate to have schools for operational reasons need to go on to remote, but we've only gotten safer since then with vaccination in place. I shared data today. Kids, even before the vaccine, about as likely to get hospitalized with COVID-19 as they are from influenza. I compared that to flu data over the last 2 years. And with
I'll be right back. I got to get my charger.
Certainly, no problem. I'll take you off. Yeah.
We have 550,000 children in the city of Chicago. We're averaging 7 hospitalizations a day, virtually all of them in unvaccinated 12 to 17-year-olds. We've not had a single vaccinated 5 to 11-year-old admitted to the hospital. And the few cases where we have seen breakthrough hospitalizations in kids are in kids who
you're
have
right.
significant underlying conditions and have already been offered the opportunity to have remote learning. I know staff are worried. I shared data today. If we look at working age adults, 30 to 64, 35 times more likely.
True Democracy joins us. Yes, always some very, very well constructed points. If we give politicians authority to make all of our political decisions for us and we have no authority to influence their decisions, isn't this the definition of an authoritarian government? Yes.
Things in place for that. Your chance of getting seriously ill is low. For all of these reasons, and for the fact we think about the health in all forms when we think about kids in school, I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to Art's point. This is completely a preemptive strike to the vote at 9 p.m. And I would also say it's kind of inappropriate to come on and start
you look at the data on this one,
shoveling out the propaganda to turn everybody against the teachers and what happens with the vote.
And with that, I will hand it back over to the mayor.
Obviously, we will take your questions. Cesar?
Good. Questions.
Meeting. Thanks so much for being here tonight. As always, 2 questions per reporter. Silvia Barragan will pass down the mic. And just a big favor, can you just keep your mask on while speaking? Thanks, guys. Nader Isa from Sun-Times.
Yeah, let us know who your question's for. Yep.
All right. So we asked CEO Martinez yesterday if you can weigh in earlier today, actually, about just moving forward. We know classes are canceled tomorrow. There are questions about remote learning. Will that happen if CTU stays out Thursday?
Hey, Kit Kat. Good to see you.
The district spent almost $40 million on 100,000 laptops just a few weeks ago. So are there any plans to distribute those and move to remote learning, or is this going to be a closure?
This part of the press conference sponsored by Pfizer. Everybody, after the show, go over to Jimmy Dore's channel and see the segment that they did on Pfizer sponsoring everything, so nobody can speak ill of Pfizer on our regular news shows or on our mainstream media news shows.
But I think we have to be very clear about what happens tomorrow, and we'll have to see what tomorrow brings. My hope is, despite all the pressure and despite what may be an affirmative vote, the teachers are going to show up tomorrow. And that's certainly my expectation. Pedro.
Thank you,
Welcome back, Daniel.
I mean, first of all,
I feel like I didn't miss much.
No, you didn't. It was more, they opened it up to questions. So we're going to see if anybody gets in a word that challenges everything that they just, I'll shut up now. Let's hear.
I have to be responsible in receiving children. I'm going to be working with our principals. I'm going to welcome every teacher that comes into our buildings, and we're going to have conversations. Because we need to have a conversation, and we have to.
We are always having conversations. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. And meanwhile, let's get nowhere. Such a patronizing cliche. Let's have a conversation about it.
That I think all of us are struggling with is there's not a trust level, and that groundwork was laid, well before I got here. There's not a trust level.
Yeah, E. Heller.
So much
Instead of whining about the CTU, Lightfoot should be trying to distribute tablets or laptops and making sure people have the internet, but that would require actual leadership.
That's socialism. We can't do that. That makes our country weaker.
I hope one of the candidates that emerges that's not part of the clown car takes what E. Heller just said and runs with it. It's a very important point for future crises.
How we're going to prepare them academically. That is our mission. That is our core work. And so,
yeah,
the conversation I'm going to have
by conversation, they mean go after yourselves, teachers.
And frankly, and we're going to, I'll leave it at that. I mean, that's the main thing.
It's got nowhere else to go.
I'm going to respond to parents tomorrow because I don't want parents waiting to see what's going to happen. Of course, we're going to see what the vote is tonight.
put, are you considering anything with the laptops you've bought? Any types of?
I don't want to speculate because again,
Nah.
for
I
most
don't want to speculate. I
We've
have
had
no
2 years.
idea.
2 years to think about it and put the plan together, but we don't want to speculate right now on the eve of the vote.
Saying, we're going to make a decision
Fucking
about
idiot.
our children being able to school tomorrow at 9 o'clock tonight for tomorrow. I mean, in what world do we live in where that's okay? And so again, I have to respond again to what happens. And so again, tomorrow I'll be meeting with my team. We're going to work on a plan.
We're going to meet on the team tomorrow.
I'll work with my board. I'll work with the mayor, and then we're
Haven't you met with them before now?
I don't want to speculate. I want to see what the results are tonight. I want to see who shows up to work tomorrow.
We want to figure out how to spin this to blame the teachers when they vote against reopening the schools.
CEO Martinez earlier today about the anxiety, the testing program you wanted to put together to alleviate some anxiety for families. Do you think you, the district mayor, you've played any role in what's going on right now? If parents see the failed testing program over winter break, anything like that, do you think you have any role, or is it entirely
E. Heller, this dude is complaining about late notice instead of having planned with the mayor for the contingency of positivity rates, making remote learning unnecessary. And this is something that you easily should have been able to see with the onset of the holidays, because the holidays, everyone's getting together and spending more time together, which is what they encouraged. Now we're just the first month out of the holidays. This was completely predictable to have a plan for in advance, but now they're going to have the meetings.
We have to ask those questions. And that was a basic, and that very minimal. I mean, we built our capacity to test now. We did 10,000.
Who's the slow Teague?
At 125 schools. We are now testing in every single school. I still want to do more. I am not going to give up on that. That is something that I think I need to continue we'll continue to advocate. We're going to be talking to the governor. We're going to be talking. We're going to put pressure.
Mary, we're looking at about a year until the new mayoral election, the next mayoral election.
It is not.
We have 3 years of Biden.
Question to ask: have we run out of a vaccine supply in the city? Have we? Because that's the only solution here. Now, if that was going on and we have somehow played a role in that, hey, I'm responsible then. Hey, hold me accountable for that. A test before this. Because again, we have to follow the science. We have to follow the.
Back to E. Heller's point, instead of whining about the Chicago Teachers Union, Lightfoot should be trying to distribute tablets or laptops and making sure people have internet, but that would require actual leadership. And I missed this comment. Whatever, man. But E. Heller, Lightfoot spent all the money on cops.
Teachers won't get that. If you want to be compensated,
yeah, it'd be a great question. Do you guys regret giving all that COVID money to cops? We might have used it now. What do you think?
God, I wish we could log in and ask that.
District level, don't count.
I mean, at some point, we are technically credentialed press. We could be at this meeting.
Yeah. But I don't want to go out and catch Omicron or be exposed. And that's one of the reasons. I mean, we've actually, kind of on a side note, we've had a lot of several staff meetings over at Hardlands Media about our wish to get out and cover more things live. But as the pandemic, started to lift, we were thinking about it, but then we're back in it, and we don't want to go out and get sick ourselves. I don't. I mean, you can be as careful as you want, but as you go, especially with this Omicron thing going around, I couldn't have foreseen it was going to suddenly jump this much. I knew things were going to increase, but it's kind of getting freaky again.
No, historically, this is actually good. Historically, when a pandemic happens, you have 3 phases. Your initial fast-spreading surprise, novel, normal death phase, followed by just about as communicable, super deadly second wave, which is Delta. And then you have the third wave, which is usually super spreadable, but very mild. That's how it usually works. And we're on third wave.
E. Heller just told me they do have a chat option on this live stream. So I'm going to enter that question. I'm not going to say we're going to get answered, but the question is, do they regret spending all that money on cop overtime? I'll put in there.
When they could have used it now.
Yeah.
Are classes canceled tomorrow? Are you preemptively canceling classes tomorrow? And if you are not, at 8:25 p.m., why not preemptively cancel? Because there's a lot of parents out there who want that certainty at 8:25.
Yeah, no. Again, we have to. It's based on the vote. Because let's say our teachers say, no, we agree that our children need to be in person. The science is clear. Yes. Are there things that we can improve? especially at the school level, because again, it varies school by school what some challenges are. They vote, no, our children need to be in person, classes are out. Classes are out. If they vote that they're going to do a walkout, that they're going to actually not show up for work tomorrow to teach children in person, I have the only responsibility.
Okay, the question I'm putting in there. Do they regret spending all that COVID money on police overtime when it could have been directed towards improving remote learning with internet to families that don't have it and more tablet distribution or more tablets?
It's a good question.
I will. Magic 8 Ball says.
If there is,
Oh, I've got to sign in.
I'm throwing it on their Facebook live stream.
Okay.
I think we've been very clear about that. There's no ambiguity there. But
Let me see if I can sign in on my other screen with Vimeo to get this question in real quick.
If they want to be paid and compensated, they've actually got to come to work and do that.
As we listen.
They will be in a no-pay status. Now, obviously, we want to provide very clear, predictability to parents and students, and we will see what happens tomorrow. As the CEO said, our responsibility of parents is to make sure that we can function operationally. There's no public health reason to shut the entire system down. None. You heard that very definitively from Dr. Artie, who's been saying this consistently day after day. We're not going to abandon the science. We've come too far. We've learned a lot. We have the vaccine. Our schools are safe.
All right, I'm logged in. Let me see if I get this comment in, because this is the official Vimeo stream. So I think that maybe they might, and I don't see any other comments in there. So
I think they're multicasting like we are.
Okay.
But if you put it, you're going to be the only comment.
We will send you a link to finish your. I don't need to sign up. I'm already logged in. All right, I'm going to log in and hope that it doesn't show my password.
We're not going to speculate about what will happen at the end of the week. We've been very clear, though.
By the way, I just want to say I'm reading a Facebook chat. They're not they're about as happy as we are.
Choice out of the hands of parents. Then we have no choice.
I wonder if they're addressing any of those comments, though, in that live chat.
No. With regular people? We're not talking to regular people.
No.
What do you think we are, nuts?
Your obligation is to our parents and our students.
And just to be clear, if classes have to be canceled tomorrow, students should not show up because CEO Martinez mentioned something about a nutrition plan.
Oh, I get what they're doing now. They're trying to force teachers to show up by going, school's open. Would be a shame if there were no teachers there.
Depend upon the school for 3 months.
Aha.
They were to depend upon the school.
Oh, by the way, just so if you're aware, your login is showing. If you,
I know it's not going to. It won't show the password. I'm just trying. I did it on another screen, and it's this screen. Well, let me You know what? Let me refresh this screen, and then perhaps it will then record my comment in the chat.
One way, and the student.
Yeah, no one I'm watching on Facebook is WGN is hosting it.
Okay.
They got a bunch of people watching. They got 1,300 people watching. None of them are happy with Lightfoot. No one's going, yes, this was a good call.
All right. While this refreshes, maybe I can re-enter my comment since I logged in on the other screen, and my browser should recognize that I'm logged in now. Oh, for heaven's sake. Come on.
I love when a democracy enforces its will like a dictatorship. It's freedom. That's why I come to America.
Nunca ha habido una conversación con nosotros. Lo que yo he pedido de la CTU, que no tengan.
Oh, I love that at the very end, like, okay, get the guy to say all the complaining we did in Spanish.
Yep. All right, you know what? We missed Lightfoot. I even though I'm logged in on my other screen, which is a Chrome browser, this screen is not acknowledging that I'm logged in. So, and I don't remember my password since
it's fine. No one will take it seriously anyway.
Yeah, I know, but it's a missed opportunity to at least try to participate in that conversation.
Don't worry, I got you covered. I threw in some stuff on the WGN link.
Okay.
¿Qué va a pasar para tener un plan que los padres sepan esto es lo que vamos a hacer el jueves, el viernes y esta semana que viene? Y eso, y no quiero ahorita especular porque no sabemos, todavía no se acaba.
Well, I can't. I don't speak Spanish, although I'll let it run for our Spanish-speaking audience. I don't want to.
Habla español.
Well,
Um,
at the table with
Tiede?
CTU,
Mara, what am I trying to say?
marketing team from CPS is on episode.
If you speak Spanish, let us know.
This is the first week back.
¿Hablas español?
We responded to
As a question mark?
concerns that they had raised. We put together
¿Hablas español? ¿Tú?
operation plan, and we asked them actually review the plan and then get back.
Daniel,
to
I'm
us. Do
going to
not
send this over
take
to you in our
until you have
private
time to
chat.
review the plan.
If you can
We
copy and
sent
paste it
over
on your end,
together.
though, I don't have
Plenty
any
of time for them to
indication they're
evaluate.
going
If
to
there was a
answer
sense
it.
of
But
urgency,
yeah, the thing is with the
something
Vimeo stream, next time there's an opportunity. I guess I'll have to be logged in ahead of time now that I know that they do. They take questions in the live
Well,
chat.
if they don't have enough time to
There's 7 people on the Vimeo. Only 7 people on the Vimeo Chicago's Mayor
Yeah.
live stream. That's crazy.
It's being broadcast everywhere else.
Okay.
take the
No one's
time
really there anyway.
to respond and analyze it and continue working at the bargaining table.
Do you want to keep going on the rest of the stories? I feel like we're not going to get
Yeah.
anything.
I'm gonna. Yeah. Let me get her off. I mean, I think that that's what he said. Yeah, I think we've pretty much got the gist of everything that she wants to talk about here. Let me move on to our other stories that are not COVID related. Well, a couple are, but not so much with the school situation. So take this screen down, get our other screen up. And of course, anybody that wants to continue watching that conference, go log in, go watch it later. It'll be
Go
available
if you want to keep watching that conference.
Yeah, do it
Find a
after.
really heavy object and just knock yourself in the head. Just the same experience.
So here's something that we reported on last week, which I was grateful to see. Apparently, they were paying attention to, and that is these pop-up clinics, these pop-up testing clinics where people are not getting results, and there's questionable testing methods as far as safety and legitimacy of the people running the clinic. So Pritzker vows to shut down the fly-by-night pop-up COVID testing sites, calling them an enormous problem. Missing test results, unmasked workers, illegal fees for COVID tests. These are just some of the issues Chicagoans have encountered at unregulated pop-up sites, pop-up testing sites in recent weeks. Now the state is cracking down on these fly-by-night operations. Governor J.B. Pritzker announced Monday. Last week, Block Club reported on these problems at a Monday news conference to discuss hospital capacity issues amid the state's latest COVID surge. Officials urged people to find testing sites using the state's website and to trust their gut if they show up to a site that looks shady. Some of these testing sites may be fly-by-night, Pritzker said. All they're doing is taking the swabs, putting it in a liquid, then they aren't taking responsibility for how long it takes to get that test back from a lab that they may not have a strong relationship with. This is an enormous problem. Some of them are not even returning results at all. Pritzker said he's referred the issue of questionable pop-up sites to the state attorney general's office to investigate. We intend to make sure those operations are no longer doing to customers and patients what they have been doing. He urged residents to use free community-based testing sites. You can find a list of approved of such. You can find an approved list. Woo! And I haven't been drinking of such sites here. And there is a link in the Block Club Chicago article that will take you to the Illinois Department of Public Health with that list. So, not too much to report as far as anything changing, but they are now paying attention to it. And once again, we've got Pritzker doing more than I think we expected him to in his first year as governor, although Kit did bring up some issues with our environmental pollution matters up here in Chicago that the governor's got to pay more attention to. He doesn't have a full A, but I would say maybe a B- as far as how he's been responding to things here.
Yeah, and Illinois is really weird right now. I also want to say on top of that I'm glad JB is taking care of fake COVID testing sites because Lightfoot's too busy yelling at teachers to deal with it.
Yeah. Now, on the other side of this, this is the other concern, and Mary mentioned this in the live chat. Now, she said hospitals are at 100% capacity. Not sure if they are yet. And E. Heller tells us in the Slack they are grilling Arwady about test availability. So there is a frighteningly limited amount of ICU beds in Illinois' COVID surges per Governor Pritzker. And this comes from Shannon Antinari at Patch. And what Shannon shares with us is that days after asking residents and healthcare providers to postpone elective procedures, something we reported on last week, Governor Pritzker painted a dire picture as he described the frighteningly limited number of ICU beds available in the event of emergencies such as heart attacks and car crashes. Now, interestingly enough, I had a conversation with a friend of mine the other night and talking about this and remembering at the beginning of the pandemic how they had mobilized Navy Pier as an emergency hospital center. And as I've been following this story about suddenly ICUs getting full to capacity, not having enough beds, wondering why they're not mobilizing at Navy Pier. And she told me, and this is my friend MK, I will say hello, MK, I don't know if she's watching, they don't have enough people to staff such an emergency site at Navy Pier were they to decide to mobilize there again. So it's like, yeah, duh. If you're losing nurses and you're already overwhelmed at the regular hospitals and other places that are treating the influx of patients, even if they did reopen the Navy Pier or mobilize there again, they don't have enough people to run it.
Well, maybe Lightfoot should do a press conference and yell at them and tell them that their doctors and nurses are all racist, and maybe that'll change something.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah. So it's weird. Like, I've had like so much like back and forth with so many different people and like things about like ICU beds filling up. It always seems like it's not universal, but area based, which doesn't really change a whole lot, except it does change a little bit, and it's just they're not reallocating properly. But I think your point is every doctor, like I have a source that has an eye on like especially a certain Rush hospital. All of them are retiring or retiring right now in this entire pandemic, and so they're not there, they're not available. By the way, it really would have been nice if we had Medicare for all and we had them better pay and they weren't spending all their time trying to do paperwork to get Pfizer to reimburse them. That might have helped. But we didn't do that. That wasn't the path America did. I don't know. I feel like every time I read a thing that like the ICU beds are full, I don't feel it really means anything, even though it obviously does. Because on one hand, it's an oversimplification of where things are available and where they aren't. But it's also a point of, to your point, and also to Hella's point earlier, we're 2 years into this. If you haven't prepared beds, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, as I covered previously, personally, later last year, I had a friend who was deathly ill that I took to the emergency room, and I was stunned and seriously a little bit scared at what I witnessed with how overwhelmed they are in the emergency room that wasn't even dealing with COVID. And you look, going into healthcare requires dedicated people with empathy. I think we're probably more often lucky to have those people serving in healthcare. I can't even imagine how overwhelmed they are with the influx of responsibilities because of COVID, which is leading to a lot of these people just like throwing in the towel, like time to retire. I'm not getting paid enough, or obviously I'm too overwhelmed. And I think there's also got to be a mental strain on a lot of healthcare workers that, well, mentally they feel they were prepared for it going into it. It's just got to be a strain on your capacity to just constantly be around suffering and pain that you feel overwhelmed with trying to treat as
people that say you're faking everything.
Yes, absolutely.
It was crazy. So like, luckily I've not had a lot of interactions with, going to an ICU, but the times I have were way before pandemic.
Yeah.
The wait times you were describing weren't that different from what I experienced.
That's what shocked me. Oh, were they? Okay. Because it shocked me. My previous experience had been, depending on the urgency of your emergency situation, 10 hours was just like, what the F? How before they even triage you and start treating you, you're waiting. I mean, you do the initial intake, but until they start giving you IVs, as in my friend's case, she was dehydrated and dealing with unending vomiting. It was a really tough situation. So I'm like, you can see this person's literally almost on the verge of passing out. Why aren't you doing something? Why wait 10 hours instead of at least give her fluids? Because when someone's vomiting, they're dehydrating. That's what scared me about the situation.
Actually, the only time I've ever been in an ICU, I was very, very young. I just remembered I did this. It was nothing. It turned out to be not that much, but there was no one. I just remember very distinctly. There was no one in the. This was in Texas. There was no one in the ICU. Still took an hour.
What do you think was going on? Just understaffed, or just they were?
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, the rest of the article goes on to say that bed availability is in single digits in 3 Illinois regions. Pritzker said during a news conference Monday. That includes Region 7, encompassing Will and Kankakee counties, which had just 6 available ICU beds and was at 95% ICU capacity as of Monday. So as Mary, one of our viewers in the chat, mentioned, they're at 100% capacity. If this article was Monday, yeah, they've probably reached capacity. Statewide, 316 of the 2,977 ICU intensive care unit beds were available on Monday afternoon. A total of 1,086, or more than a third of those in the ICU, are COVID-19 patients, according to state health data. Frightening. More than 650 of those hospitalized with COVID-19 are on ventilators. IDPH reported, and with the holidays over in Illinois entering a new year, the governor worried that the situation will worsen. I fear the climb will continue as the virus incubates in those who were exposed at the end of December, Pritzker said. As usual, he's urging residents on Twitter to get vaccinated, get their booster shots, and continue to wear a mask.
So what's interesting as well is, like, and again, this could always change. This is the last time I read it, and again, it's America. We have no idea what's really happening because everyone is trying to either, whatever. But even with
Don't look
this,
up. That's what I'm punctuating everything with. Even though that movie is about an asteroid, the message was how everybody just doesn't know what the hell's going on, is in denial, doesn't want to acknowledge what's happening. And I think that expression is just going to be my catchphrase now with everything we're talking about.
My catchphrase with this would be peak late empire. This is, everything we're dealing with, the Britons dealt with at the end of their empire, and the same thing the Romans, especially the Romans, dealt with at the end. Exactly the same. Almost exactly the same. But where was I going with this? I don't know. That's a good point.
No, you were talking about. I lost the point too. Talking so fast.
Oh, right. Okay, right. So the current variation, as far as I can tell, hasn't actually killed anyone, which is what I was saying before. Historically speaking, 3 waves. 3rd wave is the most contagious. It's the virus fully adapting to human physiology. Remember, viruses don't want to kill the host. That's not what they're about. They want to passively exist in as many hosts forever. That's why the most of the viruses we get are all based on some other animal, which is why, because the virus mistakes we're not bats, so the virus doesn't know that.
Some of us are.
But the point of it is that right now we're at a spot where it's the most contagious variation is out right now.
Yeah. But
it's also the most treatable, the easiest to deal with, the least lethal. So, I feel at some level, at a very direct level, much more than when this pandemic started. I was making like a lot of comparisons, but not now, which is almost a direct comparison, which is we're dealing with this just about as well as we did in 1918, just slightly different reasons. We're determined to not fully quarantine. We really don't know what we're doing. The politicians want us to ignore the most effective ways to treat it for something else that they have in mind. People are making money off actually, that's more of a modern thing. Okay. When 1918 happened, the reason it's called the Spanish flu is because Spain was the only country that wasn't at war and didn't have a wartime cap on the ability to talk about the pandemic, because World War I was happening. And it spread mostly through World War I for the troops and the troop movements, because we were a brand new early globalist movement of people. And it just spread, and it killed so many people, especially the soldiers, and no one cared because they're focused on doing other things, other political aspects. And that's no different from where we're at now. The only real distinction I would say is today we're trying to make money off the process. That's really the only difference.
Everything is sponsored by Pfizer. E. Heller said that Lightfoot was all over the place on the back end of the conference. Be thankful we weren't watching. It's now ended as she rage quitted, which I would have foreseen.
Don't you love it when everyone around you is yes-manning you and you still lose?
So we've got another important and interesting story that there's going to be a power vacuum in the South Side Congressional District. It's going to be very interesting to wait and watch and see who decides to enter and pick up that gauntlet that Bobby Rush is dropping as he decides to step down and not seek re-election. This comes to us from the Block Club Chicago staff at 75. He's represented Chicago's South Side and nearby suburbs in Congress for nearly 3 decades.
Well, I guess got to say, I can't blame him. Popcorn Gate would have taken a toll on all of us.
That's right, with the police lounging in his office during the rioting. Yeah, that was, oh my God, astounding. And I imagine at the time I saw that. Now let's refresh our audience's memory. This was during the George Floyd riots, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently there was surveillance video in Bobby Rush's office, which was closed and locked up and unstaffed, of police in there eating the popcorn, sleeping on the couches. And at first glance, you think, oh, well, Rush's office must have made it available to police while they were providing security or presence in that neighborhood. They weren't. I guess, I don't know if the windows were broken and they got in, but somehow they got into Bobby Rush's office and were spending more time lounging around and eating his popcorn and supplies there than actually doing the policing work that they were supposed to be doing.
And it was funny because, like, I remember Lightfoot back then. It's like you would have thought of all the riots happening, the worst damage was that popcorn.
Yeah. So this comes from Chatham. Representative Bobby Rush, Illinois' longest-serving member of the House of Representatives, will not seek another term in office, ending nearly 3 decades, representing several Southside neighborhoods and Southwest suburbs, sources said Monday. Rush is holding a press conference Tuesday morning where he's expected to announce that he will not seek another in 2022, according to the source familiar with the campaign. NBC5 first reported the news about Rush's expected retirement. He was elected to represent Illinois' 1st District in Congress in 1992 and has been reelected 14 consecutive times through 2020, a co-founder of Illinois' Black Panther Party. Rush also is an Army veteran, pastor, and ordained minister. Rush's retirement ensures there will be a new congressman for the 1st District in 30 years. For months before the expected announcement, several hopefuls had signaled their intention to vie for Rush's seat, including activist Jamal Cole, teacher Kirby Bergens, Pastor Chris Butler, Dee Nix, and Michael Thompson, all of which I have to say I'm not familiar with them or what their platforms or alignments are. Now, Cole, who threw his hat in the ring nearly a year ago, called Rush a legend and said on Twitter he's honored to be considered by voters for the seat. Going on in the article, Rush narrowly defeated his predecessor, Charles A. Haynes, in the 1992 primary, then easily won the general election for the heavily Democratic district, which has not had a Republican representative since the 1930s. He rarely faced much challenges for his seat in subsequent campaigns, even easily beating then Senator Barack Obama in 2000. He is part of a long line of Black congressmen to represent the minority 1st District. Oscar Stanton DePriest, elected in 1929, was the first Black person elected to Congress in the 20th century, and the district has been represented by Black men ever since. That legacy includes Harold Washington, who resigned in 1983 after he was elected mayor of Chicago. So, Congressman Rush, he enlisted in the Army in 1963 and became active in civil rights while stationed in Chicago. He went AWOL from the service in 1968 after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., according to an LA Times profile, and helped launch the Black Panthers Party chapter in Illinois the same year. He later received an honorary discharge from the Army. This is an important leader, and he's done a lot of important work. I've always felt I've admired him. I know that he's been mired in controversy throughout his tenure, but it's really going to be a loss, and I'm curious to see who will step up. I'm always curious to see who he may decide to endorse, which I think will be kind of a slam dunk for whoever that person is to replace him.
All that makes sense.
Yeah. So wrapping it up, after an successful bid for city council, he became a 2nd Ward alderman when Washington was elected in 1983. He served in that role for nearly a decade before seeking the congressional seat. So we wish the best to Congressman Rush. again, and we will be reporting on what ends up happening with whoever decides to run, and most importantly, who he will endorse, because I think, as I said, that's going to be kind of probably a slam dunk for them. Our last story of the night that I want to get through quickly, I always like to close our shows with feel-good stories. Didn't really find anything this week. So I do want to finish on this because the numbers.
Oh, if you don't have a good story, I have an idea for a good story.
Okay.
Do your story first. It might
Sure.
be fun.
No, I'd love to toss it to you because, this is not, this is what it is. And this comes to us from Patch, reported by the Associated Press. 2021 ends as Chicago's deadliest year in a quarter century. The year ended with nearly 800 homicides, 25 more than were recorded in 2020, 299 more than in 2019, and the most since 1996. And they are showing an image of Officer Ella French's funeral, which, she gets trotted out a lot by our elected officials, depending on the politics of the moment. You have something to say there?
No, I just fully agree. It just makes my thesis even better.
Yep. The year of 2021 ended as one of the most violent on record in Chicago, as a rise in the number of shootings left more people dead than in any single year in a quarter century, according to statistics released by the police department on Saturday. According to the department, 2021 ended with 797 homicides. I just read the stats in the article's title. Other cities have also seen an increase in the number of homicides, but Chicago, as it has in previous years, ended 2021 with more homicides than any other city in the United States, including New York and Los Angeles, both of which had recorded at least 300 fewer homicides than Chicago for the year as of late December, according to police data from those cities. We all know this has been a challenging year here in the city of Chicago, Police Superintendent David Brown told reporters at a news conference earlier this week. Too many families are reeling from the loss of loved ones due to senseless gun violence. Brown said the bulk of homicides are the result of conflicts between rival gangs. He has tried to highlight some positive stats when discussing the monthly crime figures, and he continued to do so with the release of the end-of-the-year statistics. He said, for example, let's look at the bright side, Daniel. The department cleared 400 homicides, a total that was higher than in any year in nearly 2 decades. Saturday's news release did not specify how many of those cleared homicides were committed in previous years, but reported that the clearance rate for the killings was just under 50%.
Don't you love it? I love it. It's like, we need all this money. We need half our local budget for police. Oh, are they solving crimes? 10 to 15%.
Yeah, less than 50. The department, which says it takes more illegal weapons off the streets than any other local police force in the United States, said that it took a record 12,088 guns off the street in 2021. That total coincided with the creation of Gun Investigations Team, which is focused on interrupting the flow of illegal guns into the city. Brown, who came under scrutiny by some members of the city council and others as the death toll mounted, said that he hopes to increase the number of detectives investigating violent crimes from 1,100 to 1,300 during the first few months of this year. And he said his goal is to reduce the caseload for detectives from about 5 to 3 cases per detective. He also said the department hopes to recruit more new officers this year, and said there will be more officers on the street, not just in patrol cars or behind desks, to interact with all Chicagoans. Not if Fraternal Order of Police President John Catanzara has anything to do with it, though. Because as we reported earlier this year, Catanzara was dissuading new police department applicants to go and take the test because the city doesn't have the Fraternal Order of Police's back. And by that, he means they are holding them too accountable for all of their civil rights violations and killings that cameras are catching that shouldn't be happening.
I mean, how dare we hold people accountable? What a terrible idea. It's like the police are like, we don't solve anything. Why would you solve our stuff?
We don't have their backs. She shoveled all that COVID relief towards overtime, constantly providing money for their budgets to literally militarize. But in Catanzara's view, it's just not enough because, they're not taking the extra step and completely absolving them of any responsibility for all of the horrible misdeeds that we do see some, not all.
Did you ever see the South Park episode that went over this dynamic? It's like the police are fighting like, okay, cops, you can't just kill people, and then there's a riot happening, and they're like, the mayor's like, you have to stop the riot. It's like, oh, do we have to stop the riot? We don't want to be in trouble with your lives. He's like, fine, do what you need to do. So they just beat the crap out of all the minorities in South Park and call it a day, and like we did our job.
That's John Catanzara. I don't know that they were directly spoofing him, but I'm sure that that's an amalgamation of a lot of our police leadership. E. Heller shares that Jamal Call is a quote unquote activist trademark, and he's no Jamal Green. Now, I think that, we've had Jamal on the show many times, and I'm really hoping he will toss his hat in the ring next mayoral cycle. But I wonder if he would be more effective as a congressperson as opposed to mayor. It's I think his star's on the rise. Whichever way he decides to go, I think it will be beneficial. I'm just wondering, which will help Chicago with more immediate.
No, definitely mayor.
Yeah, I think
mayor
so too.
The mayors of New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago have especially Chicago, have the most absolute power, even more than the president, on domestic issues.
Yeah, that's true, because they've also got that home rule. Dara West Herb shares last 2 years, and they allowed the lies to cover their tracks. Lightfoot gave the police money due to them being debunked by Black Lives Matter, sent our city into peril, rioting, and crimes. Yep. On The Simpsons, the mayor went to jail, and Lightfoot definitely needs to be arrested for enabling the destruction of the city of Chicago. Yeah, I maybe jail's a little too harsh. Dara West, driven out of office in shame, I'm okay with. Well, we'll see.
I'm fine. What can the prosecutor indict? Let's see.
Yeah. So Daniel, share your feel good story here at the end. Here. We hope on a positive note going into 2022.
This is not as much a story as something to offer to the audience, and also, hey, case study. Welcome. You're at the very end. We had a very interesting show.
Yeah.
Good to see you here. Okay, so what is the last place you went out to eat or did takeout at that you would want to share with people that they should go check out?
I've got two. May I share two?
Of course.
Okay. Greenleaf Thai, I always order delivery from. It's one of the best Thai places in Chicago. They're over on Western Avenue, just a little bit south of Lawrence, and Chicago's Pizza, which has great thin crust, great stuffed, great deep dish, and one third one, since we're talking pizza, also Marie's over on Lawrence.
Well, I've not tried Maria's.
Marie's, that's where it was, right down the street from where the old studio was.
Oh, then I have tried it, and I just forgot.
I think we may have talked about it. I think that Kit said one time when we were in a staff meeting, we were talking about some of the shows we want to do focusing on local businesses, and I maybe you don't remember Marie's, but they're another great neighborhood institution there.
Okay, well, I'll put out two, just because you put out three. One I'll start with, which is I only recently discovered Art of Pizza.
Oh, they're good too. Yeah.
Really nice.
Yep.
Me and Mara got a deep dish from there, and it's like I'm very particular about my deep dish. Like E. Heller has a great recipe. I like making my own because I always feel like if you're gonna do deep dish, it has to be just over the top luxury. Has to just be like if you're only gonna do like a Illuminati, it's like, oh, we'll put 2 slices of much. No, dude, like this is deep dish. Like, what are you doing? Just 2 slices? So like I like those really nice. So they had a stuffed pizza that I just thought was phenomenal. I thought it was perfectly
bite into it. It's like biting into like a stick of butter.
Yeah,
the texture just adds to the whole.
It's so flavor. Good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And the other one, which is a place I will order in at every other month or so, is just phenomenal. It's called Lucy's. I'm not a big fan of like chicken sandwiches, except at Lucy's, which has the best chicken sandwich sauce called Lucy sauce that I've ever had. Ever. That's the best chicken sauce ever. It's like how to put it? It's clearly like a mayonnaise base, but it's like very spicy.
Okay.
It's just so good. But the thing that makes them so good is that with Lucy's, when you order, you always want to get the double patty spicy chicken sandwich.
Where are they located?
I don't know. They're like they're north of me by like a couple miles. Like I
forgot what neighborhood you're in.
I am a neighborhood. We're near Humboldt Park.
Okay.
So it's
a general region we can.
Yeah, it's like 2 or 3 miles north of us.
Okay.
And they do delivery. But the thing that's amazing is, like, you know, when you get a chicken sandwich, like the chicken is like pretty ratioed with the sandwich, like it's a little bit outside of it.
Yeah.
They put so much chicken in their chicken sandwich, especially their double. You basically eat two different meals. The first meal is when you unwrap it. You eat, okay, so like the patty might be like right here and this big, and the chicken's like this big around it. And so you got to eat. You got to pick away, yeah. And then you dip it in that sauce. It's like, it's really good. I like their mac and cheese. It's always cold when it gets here, which I don't like, but it's always good. But it's like they have, I think, the best chicken sandwich I've just ever had in my life.
As we're talking plugs, I broke my diet for the first time. I don't want to say it's a diet. I don't think people should go on diets. You should focus on eating nutritiously, which I've always done. But since I've been holed up at home for the past month recovering from my shoulder surgery, I figured it was the best time to like change my eating habits, because even though I eat healthy, I'm always tempted to like stop somewhere and grab food on the run because I'm not at home to prepare meals. And my sister got me on this program, and this is not a paid plug, but I'll just share what happened. A program through a plan called Optavia. And yeah, you do buy food that they send you at home. And if you're disciplined about it, though, I went from about 234, I'm now about 219, and that's in the course of a month. And what it does is it spreads your meals out across the day. You do prepare your own meal for dinner, which they call the lean and green, which is, some protein meat with a vegetable, and it's about, weighing your portions. But throughout the day, you start with a shake, you have the little snack bar, they've got prepared foods. But because I'm waiting for my next month's shipment to continue my plan, and I haven't really shopped for groceries, I have gone out, and as I said, I ordered from Chicago's Pizza the other night. So it's like I'm on a little bit of a respite from my nutritional eating, and it's cool that we're talking about these new places to plug with Good Eats until I resume that whole nutrition plan. But speaking of plugs, as E. Heller is not with us tonight, remember, everybody, if you haven't already, check out our Redbubble store below to support the show for our Chicago Corner flavor improving mugs. They are the mugs that improve flavor. And I don't know how many we've sold, if we've sold any, but it certainly does help show your support for the show, helps us with our live streaming costs, and, promotes the show if you're around other people drinking that hot cocoa, coffee, or something else. So we would encourage you, if you'd like, to check out our Redbubble store below, even though the holidays are over with. If you haven't liked and subscribed yet, and I don't know why you wouldn't if you're with us tonight, I think we had about 20 viewers at the height of the show watching us, which is a great number. Before we close out tonight, let's see if there are any other really quick comments in the live chat.
I got something real quick I want to connect.
Yeah.
Case study. E. Heller actually has one of the best recipes for deep dish on his website. E. Heller, can you share with Case Study that link? That way you don't have to come to a Chicago place. He has the recipe for you already.
Is that the caramelized pan pizza?
No, that's E. I think it's no, that's Easy Streets. This is E. Heller's specific one that he makes for his website.
Okay. E. Heller also shares Lucy's Fried Chicken is great. Oh, yes. When I lived out there, California Pizza Kitchen was good. But also out there, California Chicken Kitchen over on Melrose when I lived in LA for 10 years. Favorite chicken places. So really quickly, going through the live chat. Want to thank everybody who participated tonight. It was a lively conversation. And as you all know, I like bringing you all into the show to comment as well. So we've got more diversity of opinions and things to share. Thank you, Golden Silence.
Also with Hobo. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Also with Hobo, yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. I only eat between about 9 and 5 p.m.
Yeah.
Every day. Yeah. So I don't have the ability to just kick back at the end of the day and drink a bunch of beers because I can't eat anything with calories at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I've never been able to break past 2:30, and not that I didn't trust my sister's opinion, but I'm like, yeah. I mean, I was kind of doing keto, so I was eating healthy, but I wasn't I wasn't weighing my portions, and I tend to like eat 2 or 3 times a day. And the trick is stretching out small meals that are healthy across the day. So now that I've disciplined myself to follow that kind of a schedule, I'm like, I feel lighter on my artificial leg now that I've started wearing it again. I'm I'm not as self-conscious, seeing myself on camera here. So yeah, Optavia, check it out. It's not a paid plug. I'm not getting anything for it. I'm only sharing my good results. If you're looking for a plan that might be helpful, but you got to be very disciplined about following it.
Yeah, but case study. I'm gonna jump back into chat
Mhm.
case. Do it when you're going to invite someone over. Everyone likes it when you can make food.
Yeah, yeah.
It gives you good incentive because you're not going to eat that on your own anyway. Just peruse the recipe, see how comfortable you are making it, and then make it and go, hey guys, that's my first deep dish pizza recipe, came to me.
Yeah, case study asks, and we've asked too, E. Heller, do you have your own restaurant? He should.
You gotta
Perhaps
give
this
E.
might
Heller
be
a food truck with slices of deep dish.
yeah, yeah. Now, if anybody should be a restaurateur, it should be E, because well, we went to his house for was Memorial Day last year. He didn't make pizza then, but his ribs were fantastic too.
They were good.
All right, everybody. We're at an hour and 36 minutes, which is great. I always love talking. I'm never in a rush to finish, but I know Daniel might have some things and I don't want to hold everybody else up. So once again,
Yeah.
thanks everybody for joining us tonight. It was exciting to cover the mayor's press conference live. Bring everybody here in the live chat, share your opinions. Until we reconvene Friday, everybody, please stay safe, watch out for each other, be vigilant. And Daniel, thanks for joining me tonight. It was good to see you again.
Not a problem. Glad to see you your continued recovery.
Thank you. A lot of exciting things happening with the new year. And this was our first broadcast of 2022 to more great broadcasts. And remember, everybody, if it's happening on the streets, you will hear about it on Chicago Corner. Case Study QB, I agree. Everybody have a safe night, and we will see you Friday. Cheers.